Good evening. This is the June 5th, 2023 workshop meeting of the Township Committee. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice if this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Sun, and Two River Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk all on January 5th, 2023. Committeeman Clark. Committeewoman Kratz. Committeeman Sedembrino.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Here.
Mayor Perry.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States and to the republic which stands one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor our troops serving worldwide, defending our constitutions, freedoms, and way of life. Thank you. The first item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing of proposed ordinance 2023-3371, an ordinance establishing fair market value for property identified as Block 1045, Lot 12, 490 Red Hill Road, Block 1045, Lot 2, Nut Swamp Road, Block 1045, Lot 3, 1114 Nut Swamp Road, and Block 1045, Lot 4, Dwight Road, within the Township of Middletown, and authorizing acquisition of these properties by purchase of eminent domain for the purpose of maintaining open space and enhancing public recreational opportunities.
Good evening, everyone. I assume most of you are here for this ordinance. So what I'm going to do is just to give everyone some background. There is a proposal that came forward to the township that would have included constructing 500 apartments on this property, mostly on West Nut Swamp. The Township Committee at our last meeting introduced this ordinance, which would authorize the Township Attorney and myself to go through what is called a good faith negotiations with the owner of the property, and if unsuccessful, grants the Township Attorney to move forward with using eminent domain to preserve this piece of property for open space forever. So this ordinance gives us that authority. So I just wanted to give that background before I call up everyone to, if you'd like to make a public comment, you're more than welcome to. I just ask that you state your name and address for the record, and just speak right into the microphone. I'll call on you one at a time. But this governing body is not going to allow for developers that couldn't point to Middletown on a map to come and put 500 units in an area that it doesn't belong. So with that being said, any member of the public wishing to speak on public ordinance number 2023-3371? Yes, sir.
My name is Joseph Saclari. I live at 134 Willow Grove Drive. My house and yard backs up to the area, which is part of what we're referring to right now. Mm-hmm. And for the last 10 years, it has become a swamp. Reason, the creeks that are back there are filled up due to sediment over the years, and there's no egress of the creeks. I've had Ted come over to the property. He's very familiar with it. Ian Ember came over just recently, and I was at the township up in the administrative office just the other day. So we were discussing the matter, and he was saying that they're going to try to get the New Jersey Turnpike Authority to come and try to clean out the creek. Ian said he has a special machine that sort of looks like a bulldozer with a backhoe on the front of it, and they're going to attempt to clean out the creek. Right now, it's just a total mess. And I pay a lot of real estate taxes, and it's just a mess back there. So I'm expecting that.
Imagine if there was 500 units sitting there.
Well, that's the other point. Right now, because of the drainage problem, that would just increase the problem tremendously, because 500 units of pavement No water can sink into the ground at that point, so it just rushes right off into whatever low-lying area there is. I would have an Olympic-sized swimming pool in my backyard instead of what I have right now. So hoping that we can take care of business.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, sir. Any other member of the public wishing to make a public comment? Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Tim King. I live at 62 Cypress Neck Road in Lincroft. My question is, how on earth could a developer even propose to build 500 units of high-rise on land that I'm assuming is zoned for low-dense residential?
How much time you got?
Well, but then that's how
I can tell you exactly where the place I was and exactly what time it was that our township attorney, Brian Nelson, called me up and said, "You're not going to believe this," and said that a developer was coming forward to the township proposing these 500 units, and basically threatened us with a builder's remedy suit inside their "Hi, we are X, Y, and Z." And at that time, I knew that we were most likely going to face a fight, a builder's remedy fight. But unfortunately, there's 565 municipalities in this state. And the state has these affordable housing, what they put as a guise for affordable housing. And what that really translates to is overdevelopment. And because affordable housing sounds nice and it sounds like, oh, well, we're doing something that's good. But for every one affordable unit that a developer constructs, they need to build 4 market rate units in order to pay for that 1 unit, which is absolutely atrocious and the very reason you see overdevelopment happening. Now, I take a lot of blame, if you read on social media, for Village 35 and for the Target property, and I'm okay with that. I put my name on the ballot and I'm okay with taking the blame. But the Target property, for example, started when I was 7 years old. The Village 35 property started when I was 10 years old. Well, I just turned 33 the other day.
You've been in trouble for a long time then.
I've been in trouble for a long time. Ask my parents. The point I'm trying to make is the township today is trying to prevent something from happening in the future that a future township committee has to deal with. Today, we put in 2020 a referendum on the ballot asking you, the overtaxed residents of the state of New Jersey, whatever municipality you live in, to spend the extra penny per $100 of assessed value into the open space trust fund. We asked you to do that. Each year, based on the assessments of the town, we bring in approximately $3.5 million. For everyone that asked me what we were going to do with that money, today is your answer. We are spending that money to prevent these 500 units because the state of New Jersey is completely reckless and irresponsible in how they want to deal with the quote unquote affordable housing that they put forward. They have left it to the towns to maintain, and unfortunately there are no rules, guidance, or even an inkling as to what is technically allowed and what isn't allowed. Well, for people who can't find Middletown, as I mentioned on a map, the 5 people that are elected to this governing body are going to tell you what we think. And that's, you're not putting 500 units where they don't belong.
So does the developer currently have a contract to purchase the property?
They've already purchased one of the properties.
So will the township then, either through a purchase or eminent domain, value the property as it currently is a pseudo swamp?
We have,
Or
so the way that we have to do it is we had an appraiser go out.
No, I understand.
We also had an engineering, consulting engineering firm do a build out cost analysis is what it's called. And that the cost analysis is based on the current zoning that is allowed there, not 500 units. It is based on single family housing.
So the developer paid the current value based on the current zoning, or an increased value based upon his assumption that he could build the 500?
They are paid what we are willing to offer them. Okay, but at the same time, if we cannot get through the good faith negotiations with a contract at the end, we then pay the appraised value according to our appraisal.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, bro, if you want to turn your mic on.
the way that we have an appraised, just to explain because in case other questions come up, I think it's helpful. Just so for everybody understands the process, is that we conduct an appraisal based on the current zoning of the sites. There's actually 2 parcels that make up this entire project area that are close, but not directly adjacent to one another, one of them being much larger than the other. And so we conducted a build-out analysis, had an engineering firm do that based on current zoning. They determine what you could build there under current zoning, and that establishes the basis for the valuation, which is determined by the appraiser. So when we, give a good faith negotiation offer, that's based off of that appraisal report. And then, we can go back and
Understood.
forth on that it's determined by that appraisal, what they paid for it and what their intent, that's a question for them, but they actually closed on the one larger property last October. And then they were supposed to close this past month on the other smaller property. So they probably own all of the assemblage already. To
Have
answer,
they filed any plans or?
they filed a lawsuit already. So that they filed a lawsuit. They threatened the lawsuit from their introduction was threaten us with a lawsuit. And so that was last October. They threatened us with a lawsuit if we didn't rezone the property for what they wanted to build there. And
Rezone it for higher densities. So
No,
that it
I
costs-
understand, but I mean, that would be typically like a land use review and an extended, protracted, what have you. And again, it boggles the mind that anyone could think that you could put high rise, let alone that level of density on a site. How many acres is it, the 2 parcels together comprise?
So collectively, it's off the top of my head, collectively, I want to say, yeah, but the developable area that's not wetlands is far smaller. So the
Understood.
actual developable areas are probably more in the ballpark of 7 or 8 acres total. So in reality, they're trying to jam about 500 units onto 7 or 8 acres. Not
Understood. Well,
because a large portion of it, it's basically wetlands in the middle and then a horseshoe of steep slopes. And, it's very steep slopes. I went out there, it's part of the property inspection. I got completely winded walking up some of them and through the mud in the wetlands. And so it's a large property, but not very much of it's, roughly maybe 50% of it's developable.
okay, well,
And
I
that's
think
the-
the mayor did a good job of explaining the value of the open land fund. And Abraham Lincoln said one time that don't tax you, don't tax me, tax that fella under the tree. But in this case, I think I'll be happy to add the extra couple of pennies to my tax bill for this
You want me to
purpose.
fight him?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Just for a piece of housekeeping, I've been told by our police department, there's a Lexus in the parking lot with the license plate ZLN 65F. No judgment, it's just your lights are on, so I didn't want you to have to go out there. Our police are happy to jump you if you'd like, but any other member of the public wishing to make yes, ma'am, come on up. I'll get you right afterwards, okay?
Hi, my
Hi
name
there.
is Kim Moneypenny. I live on 5 West Nutsmont Road. So the actual road that
Yeah,
this proposal is slated for. So we live on this road. There are currently 3 families on this road. And it is myself, my neighbor, and a neighbor down at the end that has a farm. See the fresh chicken sign. This would be.
I've seen the brown eggs available
Yeah.
sign at the end of the block.
Everyone- So this would be.
Somebody raised their hand. That's yours? Okay, perfect.
This street is incredible, and we moved here to Middletown because of this block. It was just perfect. And just the thought of the potential of this type of construction is completely gut-wrenching. So I really hope that everything is done. I can't even imagine 500 families coming up and down this 1-lane road, which is half paved. So that would mean making the lane double wide roads, potentially city transportation coming down this block. It's just in my head not feasible, and not because I'm biased and I live on this block, but because I just don't see it happening. So I really hope that what you're proposing to negotiate is helpful, because we'd like to remain residents of Middletown. Thank you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yes, miss, go on. Sir, I'll get you. That's that on.
How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm
You
Mary.
brought the brown eggs with you.
They're in the car.
All right. It's not a Lexus, is it?
It is not.
Okay.
I live at 514 West Nut Swamp Road, and we raised our family
Just
there.
your name.
Mary Jennings.
Okay.
For 25 years, we've lived there. Now, my concern is that they want 500. Would it ever get to the point where you're going to compromise for 100?
No,
Good. You're going to,
not a chance.
you're going to go for just the open space.
It is going to be for the preservation of open space. I don't even want to see a paved road, it be extended to the end of that street.
That's the idea. For the past 25 years, when we first moved there, we had 3 acres and we bought the 2, then we bought the 2. And then we were trying to purchase part of across the street from us to keep it all green.
Mhm. I'm not selling it to you once I get it.
That's fine. No, you're going to keep it what we wanted, but that's all I wanted to say, just put it on record. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. That's it. Yeah, I wasn't gonna say.
I live at 466 Everett Road, and my question is, the stretch between, I think it's White Oak Ridge and American Way, we don't have
Yep.
sewer or
Yes.
city water. Will we be expected to pay for their?
As a part of
Right.
their
Because the
plan, they
roads are
wanted to
paved.
put sewer in.
Right, will we be
obviously.
paying for that as taxpayers if we put in their water?
No, they would have to pay for that themselves. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's really my question. plug
yeah.
the
They,
road.
anytime
Include
something
the
like
road
that
and everything?
happens.
Okay.
And in fact, we have our new executive director of the sewer authority who is here, John Friedman, and no, the sewer authority would require that they have to pay for all of that.
Okay, that was my question.
All right, thank you. Yes. Hello.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Urbanski, and I live at 121 Red Hill Road. It's in Homedale, but it's directly across the street from the plot that is going to be purchased for development. And I just wanted to say that my family has lived there for multiple generations. We make an effort to beautify and maintain the land. We have a organic tree farm, and my children love being out in the open in nature with their 4th generation to live on the property. And I just, I appreciate that you're listening to the people, because a lot of times if you live on a busy road as I do, or along the parkway, that we're second-class citizens, and we're not. We're a community, we're a neighborhood, and we have worked very actively on my family to try to preserve the tradition and bucolic nature of the land, and I really appreciate the other side of the street doing the same. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. How you doing, sir?
Good. My name is Gary DeFelice, 23 Foster Street.
Mhm.
My family is the farm, the Cedar Hill Farm, where we're growing strawberries, and we had the Christmas trees for years. First off, thank you, and I applaud any member of this council for opposing and objecting a project like this in this type of area. My only concern about tonight's ordinance is I'm a proponent of open space. Some of you have probably seen the banners when the referendum was on the state ballot, encouraging people to vote yes for open space. But I'm also a proponent of property rights.
Mhm.
And my concern is that why we just can't stick to our zoning rules. And this is just the tip of the opposition. I think that if the entire town was to feed into a proposal like this, we'd fight it and knock it down just like the town center was. So I know you say there's no guidelines, Mayor Perry, on affordable housing, but I thought that some of the criteria was that within walking distance to food source and transportation. Well, we know that's not existing here. So again, I'm not a planner. I'm a farmer. And I don't want to see this area destroyed with what they're proposing. But I also believe in property rights. So to just take away a piece of ground from somebody that may have a plan that fits within the zoning, that would be something that I'd be concerned with. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. And I just, I do want to say, I agree with you. I don't think any member of the committee up here likes to sit here and say, let's use eminent domain, right? But when you are faced with something that is an absolute travesty and embarrassment to the area, something that everyone in here can agree does not fit in that area, you're right. If they had proposed single-family housing like you have, sir, or all the other neighbors, it'd be pretty tough to say that that was an inappropriate use of that land. But when you're talking about 500 units, again, that goes back to an embarrassment, and that's taking an advantage of a law where there are no guidelines. And you're right, the old rules back in the day were it had to be close to public transportation, it had to be close to supermarkets. Well, you're nowhere close to any of that over in that area. I mean, I live on Kings Highway. I mean, I get it when people talk about access to public transportation. You can't even walk up the roadway right there. I mean, so to say that this fits that criteria is just a blatant lie. So I agree with you 100%, sir. I fully believe in property rights. But Middletown only has so many square feet of open space left, and we're trying to work to preserve every single one that's left, and we'll continue to do so. I'll come back to you, sir, once I give everybody an opportunity to speak. Yeah. Any other member of the public wish? Yes, sir.
500.
Hang on. I'm going to bring up this gentleman. Just want to give everyone an opportunity to speak, sir.
Peter McCleary,
How are you?
58 Glenwood Drive, Tin Falls, former mayor. So I had the same issues with affordable housing. I applaud your opening statement. And you're talking about how unjust the volume of housing and number of acres, excuse me. Would you apply that same criteria to other properties in town? Again, not Gary's, but in general, when you get a grossly unjust number of units proposed on something similar in acreage, is that a blanket statement that you would do anywhere in town?
What I do,
Would you support the same, you would go after any other property using eminent domain? Like you did it here, so I'm just curious, would you do it for another large parcel to support, the public good?
I don't think it serves the public any good for politicians to make generalities. And as a former politician yourself, I think you would agree with that statement. The duty of a township committee and town council or any level of government, their responsibility is to deal with the facts in a given situation. So applying generalities is exactly why people hate politics these days, is because we all say we're going to lower taxes and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Well, start voting on those things, and then maybe I'll start believing in what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not here to fight this. I support what you're doing here.
Yeah.
I loved what you're saying. I just wanted to know if it was a general practice or, in other words, in general, when you have,
This is my fifth year as the mayor. I haven't had one day that's been the same or one situation that's been the same as the previous day. So I don't talk like that.
No, I had my issues with affordable housing all throughout the years too. So I applaud what you're doing here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other? Yes, sir. How you doing today?
Good, thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Camille Unver, 150 Willow Grove Drive. I'm only vaguely.
Just say that one more time.
Camille Unver, 150 Willow Grove Drive.
Thank you.
I'm only vaguely familiar with the law that the New Jersey state has applied. If we don't build enough affordable housing, can they actually come in? I know in some other states they can do that. If we don't build enough affordable housing units within Middletown? Can the state come in and say, you're actually going to have to do this, we're taking this land over and you have to do
Well,
it?
I mean, this developer has already filed a lawsuit against the township.
So are they using the state law to say,
Correct.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Just so everyone understands, if you take a look at Middletown, we've built probably more affordable housing than, certainly than any town in the county, and probably more than most towns in the state. So we feel we've gone above and beyond our duty to provide affordable housing. And we've kind of made the decision a couple of years ago, until everyone catches up to us, we're not doing it anymore.
Right.
And that's our position going forward. That's the fight they're trying to have with us, that you haven't built enough still. We're going to argue about that. But we're saying, we want to build affordable housing when it makes sense to us, not when it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
This government,
Years ago, we could have picked this property. If it made sense to build something on this property, we could have zoned it for affordable housing 20 years ago when we were zoning properties for that. We didn't choose it because it was a totally inappropriate property for this type of use.
the one thing I want to say about this is what most people, I think, can mix is the difference between development and redevelopment. There is a massive difference. What pains me, what irritates me to no end is when we pick properties that are completely wooded, environmentally sensitive, all those keywords, right? Instead of picking the areas that actually make sense, that are in our housing plan, to place housing there to try and revitalize different areas. I'm all for redevelopment. I think redevelopment makes complete sense when you have asphalt areas that are not contributing to anything and actually creating tax appeals upon tax appeals, which only steal from you, the taxpayer, rather than going after these wooded areas that have animals and ecosystems that are involved in them. That's the difference that I believe in. Any other yes, sir. How you doing today?
Michael Guanacci, 5 Castleford Way in Lincroft. Just a few questions. If this was to go through, how many years would it be until this would be developed and people would move in?
Tough to say. I mean, they would still have to go before, proper land use, boards for the town. So there's, as many people know, it would be years. Yeah,
Right.
it would be a decade, in the court system.
And what would it do to school systems like overflooded like Lincroft, right? Where would all these kids go to school?
It's an excellent question.
Right.
So, but that's why we're here to stop it.
And when would we know, like, how many, this could go on for years, but so we know if we win, right?
Well, at the end of this public hearing, the 4 members of the governing body here will vote on this ordinance. And a vote in the affirmative for this ordinance will move forward with the acquisition of this property, whether it is in good faith or by eminent domain.
The other thing you can do is I don't know if you signed up for our weekly alerts, but we put an alert every Friday with just new news, new information. So if anything significant were to happen on this front, we would probably include it in that. So if you're on our website, you can sign up and get something every Friday.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Any other member of the public? Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Heather McGrath. I live at 460 Everett Road, which is the property at the top of the street. So nice to see lots of my neighbors here today.
We're holding a block party.
It feels like it. If we had the eggs, we'd be good. But I do just want to thank you. We lived in this house. Well, we still live in the house. We've lived there for 22 years. And it's come up over the years. So I remember when the COA legislation first came out, and that was one of the properties that was looked at and scrapped because of the lack of infrastructure, the swamp that everyone has mentioned. But over the years, many developers have come to look at that property to look at not high density housing, but to see if they could put single family homes. And it's always been our understanding after talking with those folks that it's just not economically feasible to do single family housing. So we've been waiting for the day when someone wanted to do more because it's the only way to do this and still make money for a developer. So I thank you for taking that under consideration and looking to preserve this property. The property that is on Red Hill Road, we call it Landscape Gomez.
Yeah,
I don't know the actual block and lot number.
that's actually what it says in our tax records too. Right?
But we just happen to know that's where they
Yeah.
are. Is that related to this?
Yes.
So,
Are working to, I don't know if they've closed on that property. I know they were in the process of working to close on that property as well. This for those of you who don't know, this is the one directly adjacent to Memorial Sloan Kettering, right there. It has some, as described, landscaping equipment that's on there currently. That was also included in this. So the actions that we're taking here tonight would include that parcel.
and is it your belief that that is how so we've always known that that road, because it runs beside our house right down to the Jennings property, is not a real road. So to make that a two-way road. would
They
be-
never had that. They never used, nothing that I ever saw or was presented to me utilized that parcel. I understand what you're asking.
That's what I'm asking.
Utilize, that, it was not. The access, in fact, it's actually not as, you are smarter than the engineers apparently that put this plan together, because that might actually have been better than utilizing a unpaved road as the entrance to a 500 apartment.
So
Well,
there's stream over, and I know Memorial.
apparently you can buy
owns
anything,
part of
right?
that. Yes, yes, we all own, no. And we actually tried to buy, when the gentleman who owned it passed away, we tried to buy that land as well to preserve it.
Sure.
But they would not sell it to us because they were looking to develop.
Yeah.
So I'll buy it so they don't get any ideas.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other member of the public wishing to make a public comment? Yes, sir. You almost had me. I was about to say it.
Hi,
Hello.
Will Nunez, 67 Cypress Neck Road. So this committee, this group is pretty straightforward with us and keeping with sort of the wishes of our, neighborhood. Eminent domain for the purpose of, removing this threat, certainly appreciated and welcome. What happens if 5, 6, 7 years down the road, you're not around to help lead the charge against this? So in other words, what's the end game here? Is it eminent domain and that takes away the threat? Or this persists for another 5 to 10 years battle, just looking for another committee that's a little bit more, lack of a better term here, pliable?
No. So we've had to go through in my 5 years as mayor and 6 years on this governing body. We've only utilized this power one other time, used eminent domain one other time, I think, right, Brian? And that was to acquire a piece of property that the town has already invested a significant amount of money in, millions of dollars and in infrastructure, and as well as probably equally amount of time into maintaining Fairview Fields. And we utilized it then to preserve that property for unfortunately not being able to come to terms on maintaining our usage of that property at a reasonable rate, and yet millions and millions and millions of dollars spent on roads, fields, and everything else that's at Fairview. And that start to finish probably lasted, I don't know, 18 months, 24 months. So if resolution 2023-3371 is passed here tonight, it would immediately begin and authorize Mr. Nelson to start that process. And I would hope that we would be able to wrap this up, by the end of this year, maybe, first quarter of next year.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So they're stuck with me until December 31st of 2024, and by God, we're gonna own this property by that point, okay?
Right. Thank you.
You got it. Yes, ma'am. By the way, if you haven't been to our new building, welcome to the new township building.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Recker. I'm at 462 Everett Road, so my property backs up to the land in question. I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to talk with us and protecting our land and our property. Our children ski on some and sled down some of those hills during the snowstorms with the McGraths and others.
Don't tell us that when we own the property, all right?
We clean it up. We go out there and we clean it up and we make sure that it's in good shape. And, you know, one of the beauties of where we are is the trees and the forest and everything that's back there. And, you know, we have an arboretum on our property where we can't build or do anything on the land that we owned, and rightfully so. We would never expect anything to be different, and especially on the land, you know, that's in consideration. So thank you all. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I saw another hand. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Ray Geary, 158 Willow Grove Drive. One question, has Sloan Kettering offered any input or any concerns relative to this position?
Not officially to me, Tone, right?
No, but it's interesting you bring Sloan Kettering up because the back of their property does adjoin this property. And when Sloan Kettering came to the township a decade ago to build out that facility, which was originally a vacant office, but not originally, but was a vacant office building at that time, they actually gave conservation easements to the township in the rear of the property. So the part of the property, so there's already a conservation easement area that the township acquired from Sloan Kettering when they came to that property as part of our arrangement with them that directly abuts this property that they now want to develop these apartments on, which is somewhat ironic and shows the nature of the area and that they saw that this was an area deserving of conservation easements and that sort of environmental protection that directly abuts the property that these developers now want to build on.
That was the same time that the property was subdivided, those other 3 lots in question?
I don't know if that was the same time. I think that probably happened long before then.
No, that wasn't, there was no subdivision as part of that.
No.
The property that this developer is talking about was actually owned by the same developer who built the office building before Sloan. It was empty.
Mhm.
So my feeling is if they thought that that property was useful, they would have developed it long ago. But they left it alone because it was too difficult to develop. So we agree, too difficult to develop, we should just leave it alone.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your concern, believe us.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other member of the public wishing to make a public comment? With no other public stepping forward, I make a motion to prevent 500 units from being developed on this property and for the township of Middletown to forever save this parcel of land for open space. Motion.
Mayor, I'm going to second it with a comment. I'm just glad this township committee and the residents of this town gave us the ability to do this and stop this from happening.
All right.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on second and final reading. Next, we have ordinance 2023-3372, an ordinance amending chapter 245-3 and 240-7 of the Code of the Township of Middletown governing filming and film permitting fees.
Now, I thought everybody here was to talk about the film permitting fees. Any member of the public wish to speak on public ordinance number 2023-3372? Unbelievably, with nobody stepping forward, move to close the public portion and approve.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on second and final reading. Next, we have an introduction of proposed ordinance 2023-3373, a bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $2 million for acquisition of properties by and for the Township of Middletown in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $1,900,000 in bonds or notes of the township for financing part of the appropriation.
Motion to introduce.
Seconded.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with the public hearing to be held on June 19th. At this time, the mayor would like to invite John Friedman, the Director of the Sewage Authority, to come to the front of the room.
For anybody that doesn't know, John is not a stranger to our township. A good man, a great man, a former volunteer chief of our fire department, the world's largest all-volunteer fire department, was recently hired to be our township's newest executive director for the sewer authority. So John, congratulations on your new role, and welcome aboard if you want to say anything.
Thank you very much, Doug. Just looking forward to the future of the sewer authority, working with the Board of Commissioners, our faculty out there, the staff, commitment to safety, and making sure that we are here for the public. If you have any problems, please, TOMSA webpage, look it up on there, and we'll send people out to address any problems that you may have.
Thank you, John. Obviously, we had a tragedy that occurred at our sewer authority last year. And I know that with John's background in safety, both from a township fire department perspective, as well as from his professional background, we are moving TOMSA in the right direction.
Absolutely.
With the hiring of John Friedman here, and great to have him on board. I know he's got a lot of experience and a lot of face time with all of us here. Having two former chiefs as well sitting up here with me. So John, I want to thank you for what you're doing in keeping everyone safe, and keeping the health and safety of our residents as well. I know are in good hands.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
And obviously, I want to recognize the fact that our Vice Chairman, Steve Schweitzer, another former fire chief. I got Bill Hybel here. I got Schweitzer. I got Hybel next to me over here. I got Clark down at the end. I hope there's no fire. I hope there's no fire going on right now. I'm bound to be sandwiched between a couple of them. I got it. All right. Thank you, John. Thanks, Steve. All right.
Okay. At this time, I would like to ask the Township Committee to adopt a consent agenda that would include resolutions 23-161 through 23-178.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt consent agenda. Next item on our agenda for the next regular meeting, we will have certificate of proclamations, approval of minutes, public hearing of proposed ordinances, introduction of proposed ordinances, and a consent agenda. At this time, we have Township Committee comments.
All right, Committeeman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I'm unbelievably proud to be sitting at this dais on a night like tonight, where we were able to do what we're elected to do, which is protect our neighborhoods, protect our community. My family has been tied to Lincroft for 60+ years. I lived on Everett Road for 7.5 years. I grew up with the Clary family playing Chargers, and yep. See, I heard you saying it when they. There was a couple other members who were sitting in the back that are members of the fire
Looks
company.
a lot older now, doesn't he?
Well, I'll be 46 in a month and a half. So we're Brian's a year older than me, and Matt's 2 years younger than me. So, but that's the things that we do are to preserve the town that we grew up in, and I've spent my entirety of 45 years in
7 months here. My parents also went to Middletown High School. Again, I lived on Everett Road for 7.5 years, and I'm just incredibly proud of the leadership that our mayor showed in getting us to this point, the education and the information that was provided to us by our administrator and his staff, the planners, our DPW talking about impacts, and our lawyer for the guidance. It was really an awesome job by an entire team to get us to this point. So again, it's we get to do some good stuff. We get to do some great stuff, and tonight's a great one. So that's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committeeman Senabrino.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll certainly agree with Committeeman Clark's comments, and I won't repeat them. However, you must be reassured this governing body will never let anything like this happen in the township of Middletown while we're sitting up on the dais. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor.
We spoke about that topic a lot, but that's what we're doing up here. We're doing the right thing for everyone here. I just want to congratulate John Friedman on your new job. Look forward to some great successes coming out of Sewage Authority. Thank you for accepting that job. That's all I have, Mayor.
Again, I want to thank all the members of the public that came out today. You know, it seems like it's taken a long time to get to this point, but when you do it right, sometimes things take time and they take a lot of patience. And for somebody that doesn't have a lot of patience, I want to thank our professionals. You know, Brian Nelson, who always keeps me on track, never lets me sway, because for a long time, when we put the referendum on the ballot to increase the open space, people said a lot of things and they made a lot of comments, and that was okay, because when I get to spend that money on the $2 million that we're bonding for the purposes of preserving that open space, that was the point. So I wasn't able to answer the question specifically back in 2020, but I'm glad that tonight we got to answer those questions as to what we were spending that money on. And if it weren't for that action back then, we probably wouldn't have been able to afford this action tonight. Just two other notes I want to make. We passed another resolution tonight authorizing the expense, I believe about $175,000 for tutoring for Middletown students. The individuals most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic that no one ever talked about was students and the learning loss that they suffered. And we have our president of our Board of Ed here tonight, Frank Capone, longtime member of our Board of Education and former president, Joan Minuis here, who have both been great allies when it comes to getting accomplishments done and finalized. And when money started flowing down from the federal government, everybody kept asking, what road are you going to pave? What piece of equipment are you going to buy? That money was not intended to just spend on roadways and equipment. It was meant to help the businesses, the nonprofits, the students impacted by learning loss. So once again, today we are expanding the initial investment that we made. And kids, if you go to the library, you can see students on every Saturday getting tutored in math, science, reading, getting the help that they need, because we're setting up a generation to fail because policymakers decided what was right and what was wrong for students. So this second investment is a commitment to that. Finally, I just want to thank the United States Navy. On Memorial Day weekend, I had the opportunity to go out to Naval Weapons Station Earl and board the USS Cole. For anyone that, well, I was definitely born, but for anyone back in this corner over here, I'm specifically referring to, the USS Cole was bombed in 2000, which was a precursor to the attacks of September 11th. The USS Cole, still an active duty warship stationed at Naval Weapons Station Earl for Fleet Week, and next to it was the USS Oregon, which is a brand new submarine, nuclear Virginia-based, Virginia-class submarine, which docked right next to it. The reason that that occurred was the United States Navy is at sea trials right now for the new USS New Jersey, which is a Virginia-class nuclear submarine, which is currently being tested by the builder. The reason I bring it up is that submarine is almost done those sea trials, and the commissioning ceremony is being determined in several locations throughout the great state of New Jersey. And Naval Weapons Station Earl is one of those potential commissioning ceremonies. And you've all seen them. They crack a big bottle of champagne over top of them. And while I probably won't be the person cracking a bottle, because I think that's bad luck for a man to do it, I really hope that the Secretary of the Navy and the United States military decides that Naval Weapons Station Earl is the proper place to bring the USS New Jersey for its commissioning ceremony. So I had the opportunity to board that ship, have lunch underwater, which was a little freaky, but have lunch with the Chief of Staff of the Atlantic Fleet, as well as the commanding officer of the USS Oregon, and really an unbelievable opportunity. And at our last meeting, I talked about the impact that the role that a police officer plays after I went to the Top Cop Awards down in Washington, D.C. You want to test somebody's spirits, put them on a submarine and don't tell them that they can't rise for 3 months, because after about 2 hours, I was like, I need to see sunlight. But I had so much respect for all those individuals, and I want to thank them for the opportunity. And I hope that in April of next year, we can all sit out on the pier of Naval Weapons Station Earl and see the USS New Jersey take its first voyage. So I want to thank you all very much. With that being said, I'll open it up for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to make a public comment may do. I see you, Melanie. Don't worry. Let me get through my spiel first here. See, you messed me up. We just ask that you state your name and address for the record. We ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes. At 4 minutes, I'll let you know that you have 1 minute remaining if you can begin to wrap up your comments. With that being said, any member of the public wishing to make a public comment, Melanie, come on down, since you had your hand raised at the top of that.
Melanie Elmiger, Green Tree Terrace in Lincroft. So, you know, I go to a lot of meetings, kind of a meeting geek. I go to a lot of county meetings. And I guess
You are a meeting geek then.
I am.
You go to county commissioner meetings?
Yes. Oh, they're great. There's just a nice decorum there. You learn things. It's
Nicer than here?
no,
Okay, good.
it's just, you know,
Yeah, because I would have been on the phone with Tom Arnone in about 2 minutes. Go ahead, Melanie.
well, I guess I'm confused because when I always pull the agenda before any of the township meetings or planning board, zoning board. And I looked at the action item list and I saw this FM Red Owner LLC. And I was like, I don't know what that means. I'll skip that one. It's not relative to me because there was 130 pages of attachments.
Good
And-
thing we don't print them anymore.
Yeah. And then I realized that that's actually related to exit 109. And I blew the opportunity within the 8 hours that the county clerk was available today to be able to look at any of the documents related to this decision that you made. So I guess if prior to the action items, we had the opportunity to ask those questions, I mean, the meeting would probably go on and on and on. And so I understand, you know, the reason not to have that. The county does allow that. They'll say, does anybody have any questions on agenda items? And you can bring up any questions on things that are going to be decided upon. So I guess I just don't understand it. I looked at the sewer map and I see that there is sewer there at the property, but maybe there's no sewer in the bottom leg that goes along the wetlands, which I thought was being decided by the DEP, possibly that they would have to put an application to get a waiver because that's all wetlands in that part. So what part is the sewer being extended to?
No, there's an inconsistency, as you and I spoke earlier today. There's an inconsistency between our easement and the area that it encompasses.
The
So-
township easement, not the county easement.
So there's a 50-foot difference basically between where an easement exists.
Okay,
And where the permission to basically have sewer is allowed. So
okay.
when you look at the map and, you know, Tony's happy to, I'm sure, get you the map.
Yeah, so.
Hang on, Tony, I just want to finish this one thing. Basically, it's just rectifying two maps. And unfortunately, we do this all the time because there are parcels in town that we have a paper street, they don't. This map says something, this map doesn't. So this is just rectifying an easement and the allowable area for sewer.
Okay, and does that help the property? Because they really have no storm water management there. Like they have no swales, they have none of that.
Nothing to do with that.
Okay.
This has to do with sanitary sewer.
Oh, sanitary sewer only, not water, storm water runoff.
This is all stuff to flow right to John Freeman right over here.
Okay. Which corner is it? Is it lot 32, the west
Close-
side? There's like a little triangle
Closest to the parkway.
and it's just like that little triangle, or is that whole little, where they park the Mazer Consulting trucks? Is that where it is?
Exactly.
It's basically from me to the back window back there.
Not even.
Okay, okay, all right.
I mean, that's,
It's like the
it's
back
just
corner of the
rectifying an issue.
See, now I wouldn't have to ask you that if it was just like,
Well, when you
there's
called
no
me-
time.
when
No,
you
I know,
called
but I
me
didn't,
today,
I
we
never
talked
saw
for a
the
bit.
map, you know what I mean? And so I didn't really know what questions to ask. So I'm just saying that especially related to this this project, the redevelopment, like anything that comes up, if they could put the block and lot and clearly explain perhaps better, you know, what is happening, just so you understand it better.
But then you need to come- there's no reason for you to come to the
Oh,
meeting.
no, I'll still come.
Okay,
I'll still come for sure, because I want to invite you to Monday's meeting.
okay.
The Phalanx Road
Just give it right to
roundabout.
Amy Rose, she'll take it.
Oh, okay. It's for the Phalanx Road roundabout. The county will be doing a presentation of the plans.
Are they
At
naming it next
Brookdale.
to me, or what are they doing?
They're
Just-
doing
Just the roundabout we've always been talking
the
about?
Phalanx Road roundabout. They will have the drawings on boards. They'll be making a presentation maybe every half hour or so, just to explain, you know, where they're putting sidewalks, crosswalks, the positioning of the roundabout.
I'm all
The
for it.
culvert. Well, because the Middletown is a pivotal part of this, since you own the road now. And they're rebuilding the culvert in such a way that they would decommission it and broaden the road, and that, you know, it'd be nice to have representation so that you're familiar with it and you see what's going on there. I'm very proud as an LVGA director. We worked very closely with the county and they were so helpful and, you know, really gave us a seat at the table to give our input as to where we think the improvements should be made. And we got a lot of great concessions with crosswalks, because High Tech High does use the property on the other side. They'll be putting much more pedestrian friendly sidewalks and crosswalks in that area as part of the roundabout plan.
And
So,
just so you know, I don't think the ink is yet dry, but I just signed that Acme easement today.
okay,
Brian had that
Okay.
prepared, so.
can't wait to see it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. Any other member of the public? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. Dr. Laura Smith-Steens. I'm at 204 River Edge Road in Tinton Falls. I'm right across the river from you folks. We had tried to connect a couple times, Mayor Perry. I appreciate that. I think we do still owe a call here. So yeah, I was also here.
Were you
The
on the
last
conference
call-
call when I was?
Yeah, and you were
Okay.
calling me back the next day and you didn't.
I'm
So,
sorry,
A few
I'm
weeks,
sorry.
so you owe me one.
All right, I'll owe you.
I won't hold it against you.
Okay.
So I'm also here to talk about 23-172. Again, I agree that, you know, a lot of these things are a bit confusing to the public because they come under different names. The FM red owner, you kind of have to know what's going on the property, right? To know that this is also the 109 redevelopment, block 1131, lots 30 to 32. It's been called many different names, but I've been reading up on it a lot. So I kind of know that this is that property right as you get off the 109 exit. So yeah, I am concerned. You know, I don't understand why the government of Middletown is taking time to rectify maps for very small parcel of property for the sewer if there aren't plans to build something there. So it's a very small property adjacent to the wetland.
This property has.
In the parkway. So I don't understand what what the
This has already
benefit
been-
is.
It's already been designated as an area in need of redevelopment. It's not like this is new. This has been, it's been how many months?
It's
So-
been, it's
so-
been over, yes. But the first that folks in Tinton Falls had learned about this project, because we don't live here and we don't get your notices and things, and we're not on your website to see what's going on here all the time, was a couple of months ago, and I received a letter indicating that there was a letter of interpretation to designate the wetland line, to make sure they knew where the wetland line was, because my property's within 200 feet. That was the very first time I heard about this. So I apologize coming to the game late, but I really didn't get any heads up on it.
Well, I just want to make it clear
So-
to everybody that I don't want them to think that this is something that's popping up. This has been in the works for quite a while.
I agree, it's been in the works. I just have not been privy to those works.
Got it.
So I'm just here to tell you what I understand. So, has come from Middletown, but Tinton Falls residents who were very close to this property had no idea that this was happening until myself and 3 of my neighbors received a letter. So my understanding of what's going on there, and again, there are various documents, there are permit applications and things to have to go through, and the master plan reexamination, which was just passed. Sounds like there are a lot of parallels between this property and the one at 114, right?
No.
So you've got,
Absolutely.
hear me out, hear me out.
Well,
I have the microphone, do I not?
You
Hear me out.
But I can also make sure that this is a developed piece of property you're talking about. We're talking about a wooded, environmentally sensitive area, period, full stop.
Okay.
So
This is also
when
an
you-
environmentally sensitive area because it's along a river. There was just the Swimming River Waterfront Park that was just put into Red Bank. They're preserving land along a river. It's a very valuable, delicate ecosystem.
There
We
was
have
nothing-
nesting bald eagles, we have ospreys, we have piping plovers, we have lots of endangered and protected species
There's-
here
there was
that not only use the wetland, but also the
there was
uplands
nothing
in that
at-
very small sliver of land.
Can I now respond or?
You may.
Okay, thanks. So the answer to your question is you are conflating a developed piece of property with an undeveloped piece of property. And that is in no way, shape or form, not even close to the comparison that you just referred to. So I want to make,
Conflating because
you
there
are, you're
there
saying that they're the same.
There are 3 office buildings there currently.
4, but go ahead.
Well, if you count the cafe as
It's
a building.
10,000 square feet, but go ahead.
Okay, it's not an office building, it's a cafe. Anyway, so these buildings that are there currently, right? So you want to redevelop them, right? We're putting possibly residential. I did see down in table 16 on the reexamination that there are 400 affordable housing units that are going here. I'm just wondering
No.
why, no?
No.
There's not going to be any affordable housing on that block 1131, lots 30 to
Well,
32.
when an owner.
Do I have your word here tonight? Because that would be wonderful.
You have, absolutely, you have my word that there will not be 400 affordable housing units there.
398. That was actually the number, but nowhere near that, nowhere near that. No affordable housing at all is what you're saying.
No, I didn't, when someone presents me with a plan, then I'll comment on the plan. But
Okay.
400 affordable housing units, that's 2,000.
400 units, of which some number is affordable housing, is what I saw
You
in a
just said,
table.
you just said 400 affordable housing units. That
Okay.
translates to 2,000 units. That is
Okay,
never.
400, I misspoke, 400 units, some portion of that being affordable housing. I'm sure the 500 units at 114 were not all affordable housing either.
Mm,
But my concern is, I just don't understand how, in one moment, you're celebrating this triumphant, wonderful acquisition of open space on the north end of town, which I commend you all for working for this because it really is valuable. And I love that you're doing this and it's
This
got
is all
value, but
South end of town.
this,
I mean,
well, 114 is north of 109. So,
Well, in Middletown, we have a north zone and a south zone.
okay.
So just,
Okay.
you're still in the south zone.
Okay, fair enough, just geographically, you're preserving open space to enhance public recreational activity. You're preventing development in an area where it doesn't belong. These things are echoed here. This ecosystem is valuable to our residents, to your residents along Parkway Place. And, in that area of town, I've spoken to several of them. They're all very concerned about this area being redeveloped as well. I mean, there are trees there still. It's not that the whole property would need to be cleared, but I'm sure some of this would have to be touched in order to build whatever is going there.
You have the same redevelopment plan I have, and that's none. There is no current.
There is no plan, but I don't understand why we need to bring sewer in to a vacant lot.
Sewer's already there.
Then what was this?
It was
On
the
the map?
adjustment of a map. As
Just
we,
a map.
there is an easement.
Okay.
And there is an inconsistency in where the easement ends and where the sewer authority map says that they are allowed to have sewer. It
Okay.
is simply a 50-foot piece of property.
Okay. So why is this brought to your attention? Why is this so important to have these things rectified?
You have to, in order to do anything that could potentially have a portion of a building that's going to be utilizing sewer, it has to be within a sewer service area.
Right.
So the sewer service area maps were developed years and years, decades ago.
Mhm.
And they all have these bizarre squiggly lines, and sometimes they cut through what it winds up sometimes being developed. So this is probably like the third time we've had to do this over the years, where you amend that line because it was done way before anything was really developed.
Right.
So as
In
things
the-
evolved, it didn't match up properly with the line.
Right.
So sometimes it has to be adjusted.
Right.
It's it's a bit of a technicality.
Housekeeping.
It is housekeeping, yes.
But previously, was that done prior to some sort of development project where it was kind of needed?
Yeah.
Information was needed,
Mhm,
right?
yes.
So you can understand my confusion when it seems like maybe nothing is going to be built there, but
The
why?
Redevelopment plan
Uh-huh.
contemplates potential redevelopment of that property,
Okay,
but nothing's been filed to do that yet, but potential is there.
okay. Well, I just would like everyone here tonight to know that this land is valuable, though there are some office buildings on it. There is undeveloped land and there is a wetland along a river that is valuable, not only to Middletown, to Tinton Falls, the whole Two Rivers community. And I think it should be preserved. So I implore you to look into ways
The
to preserve.
redevelopment plan is clear that only the developed portions of the property can be redeveloped, the paved portion.
Only the
Not
paved
open space,
portion.
No undeveloped portions of the property can be redeveloped, only the paved or developed portions.
Okay, okay.
Why it's called.
That's why it's called a redevelopment plan. If it wasn't, then we would be talking about open space.
Okay, but, you know, I'm a layperson when it comes to public planning and things. So I just thought that because the parcel was listed as being able to be redeveloped, that the whole parcel could be touched.
Mm-mm.
No, it's
to
only
read
the
the-
part that was
You have
developed
to read the
previously.
criteria in the redevelopment plan, and it spells out that
Yeah,
you
there's,
can only develop the already developed portion.
right.
Okay,
The plan, the redevelopment designation has certain criteria that is required.
Mhm.
And that trees
Mhm.
aren't reasons for something to be redeveloped. Open space is not a reason for something to be redeveloped. It has to be existing parking areas,
Mhm.
office buildings, things of that nature, that are critically important to ensuring that you don't get massive tax appeals. You don't get all the different things that can absolutely burden a municipality.
right.
So
So if that's the case, which is a relief to me, can I ask you to consider preserving the portions of those properties that are undeveloped, that cannot be redeveloped, to preserve those for open space? I would ask you to consider that, please.
I'm sure we're all willing to make sure that that's noted and not allow for any type of expanded development into the swimming river area.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. You have a question, miss?
No, can I say something?
Yeah, sure. Come on. I didn't know if you were.
No, I was very impressed by you in the beginning, but the way you spoke to her, which is my best friend, I was quite upset. I'm Kelly Jarvis, 246 Riverhead Road, Tinton Falls, and I feel like Tinton Falls rubs you the wrong way. But Swimming River backs up against my house as well as our friends and neighbors here. And we see bald eagles, we see wildlife, we go kayaking, we go canoeing. Our kids are out there all the time. So, you know, everything I heard when I first walked in here was extremely impressive to preserve our wildlife and our nature. And the way you kind of attacked her was,
It's not an attack.
it was inappropriate.
I just wanted
Thank
to.
you. It was inappropriate.
I just wanted to.
So I just think you should preserve our land as well that we look to across the river. And if you're going to just build on the area that's already there, that's fair.
And that's,
Obviously, we don't want to see apartments, that's really sore eyes, but please consider preserving that. Thank you.
any other member of the public wishing to make a public, yes, sir. How you doing?
John Mascolo, 10 Bradley. So I've been one of the people that's been hounding you and Tony Mercantante and Rick about the Camp Coconuts and Overton, the development that's going on. Me and my neighbors, there's a couple things that are bugging us. And it seems like the responses we get. Go ahead. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just wanted, can you just tell me your name again? I didn't-
John Mascolo.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
I saw the emails.
Right. So there's a couple things that are bugging us because it appears that the owner of the gym, who in the past has kind of gotten away with murder with that piece of property, is allowed to do a lot of things that are not within the proper process. Back in 2018, I don't know if anybody on the committee remembers, the property that she's on, Evergreen Park, is on that property. There's also setback, and you have 2 residential communities on the other side of her. One night, 20 sheds show up, a temporary construction fence goes on, and these sheds are on Evergreen Park and within the setback. So we spoke to Tony. Tony actually, myself and another neighbor, we had a meeting, and he told us, yeah, I know the shed showed up. She's trying to find another location. Long story short, she operated the camp all summer in the setback and on Evergreen Park. The fence also prevented some of our neighbors from using the park. So fast forward to today, we start to see the trees come down on Overton on that piece of property. And we understand she's entitled to develop her land the same way I would want the same courtesy if I had that property. But she has such a history of doing whatever she wants. And then when the consequences come, she's like, oh, I'll just pay the fine. So there's a lot of discrepancy with that piece of property where Evergreen Park is, where the setback is. And the neighbors really want someone to have a proper survey done to mark this out and also have a discussion with her to let her know, hey, this is Evergreen Park. This is the setback. The setback is to remain undisturbed. She's running a camp on this piece of property. It's shoehorned, and we're kind of left with the mess. And it's a little frustrating that we ask questions, and sometimes, like, I know you're busy, we get these answers that sometimes are very short and don't explain the whole situation, that we feel like there's something, I hate to say nefarious going on, but that's from the outside in, that's what it looks like. We were told she needed no permits for what she's doing. She's putting 600, 700 linear feet of fence. You don't need thousands of feet of linear fence. You don't need a permit for that? You need a zoning permit for that. So to make sure that it's on your property, it's the proper height, it's the proper material, all those things. She did? Okay, because you told me in an email she needed no permits.
I said she's putting in a fence. Obviously, a fence requires a permit. The other work.
Okay. But we have such a history with her. She's not nice. She's not nice at all. We don't even talk to her because it's going to end up in a confrontation. She cut down trees on Evergreen Park in 2018. She just decided to start sawing things down. Currently right now, she has a volleyball pit that's half in the setback. It's cemented in place. Every time we call up code enforcement, they're told we're not to touch the gym. So we come to you today to say, is there something we can do? At least get this property marked, have the owner notified where she can and cannot operate, and everybody will be happy.
Does she have a survey? Part of the reason putting up a fence was so it would be very clear where the property line is, right? So then she couldn't put anything on Evergreen Park and say it was an accident. So the fence is going to.
The new fence. Okay.
Delineate the whole property line. So anything, if there's still anything on Evergreen Park, it's going to have to come out. But she can't put anything new beyond her property line. But in the woods, it's kind of hard to tell what her property line is sometimes. So that's one of the reasons for fencing it, so it's crystal clear.
So right now, the way the fence is marked, it's 1 foot in from the sidewalk. Is that allowed or not?
You mean
along when you come up Bertha, we're talking about the Bertha side, I'm sorry. When you come up Bertha, there's all sorts of markings 1 foot in from the sidewalk. Every 8 feet is a circle. So that fence can be 1 foot in from the sidewalk?
I'd have to check with the zoning officer. I don't know if she has frontage on Bertha. I think her property, your property fronts on Bertha.
She goes right to the tax map, we're going by the tax map.
Maybe that touches Bertha. The rest of it is not on Bertha.
No, in between the Goddard School and TD Bank, it looks like her property touches Bertha to the sidewalk. So right now, the marking she has on the floor, somebody spray painted 1 foot in from the sidewalk, fence, they look like fence hole posts because they're every 8 feet.
Right.
So I don't know if that's correct.
Where they front on Bertha, they can still put in a 6-foot fence, but it has to be an open fence. It can't be solid.
Okay, even though it's 1 foot in from the sidewalk. Okay, but what about the fact she thinks she owns part of Evergreen Park? That's the problem.
No, she doesn't. No, she
Well-
doesn't. She knows she doesn't.
Okay,
This is a good discussion with her. That's why the fence is going in, so it's clear where the property boundary is between Evergreen Park and her property.
Okay, fair enough, but just so you know, one day in the fall, she had kids shooting bow and arrows right on the cusp. So she's still kind of doing what she wants to do.
Eliminate that.
I was gonna say, hopefully the fence is some type of.
But this is further down. This is further down. So this whole fence issue is the new parcel. We're talking about the back corner of the property where there's some, I don't know, jungle gym apparatus screwed into trees. And some of those trees are wetland trees. Some of those trees are setbacks. Some of those trees might be Evergreen Park. This is why I'm just saying, there's the delineation, nobody knows where anything is. And it causes a lot of frustration.
She has a survey in order to place that fence. She's gonna have to abide by that survey for her property, and our zoning office, I'm happy to have our zoning officer go out there and ensure that the fence is placed on her property and not anywhere else. I mean, that's not a problem.
Okay.
I live close enough by, but
This thing, again,
is it up?
it's-
Is it up already or no?
I know it's not finished yet. I think
Is it
they were still
done?
working on it last week.
They're working on it. So what they're doing now is they went alongside TD Bank, and it looks like they're gonna go across Bertha. So again, we're just going by the markings we see on the floor. But again, what we're all afraid of is given her history where she's done things that she's wanted without the proper authorization. She got away with this time. What's next year? Take a few trees down off of.
But just so I understand, what
Yeah.
are you saying she's getting away with now?
So that one summer, she used Evergreen Park
Yeah.
and the setback to run the camp.
Okay.
And nobody did anything. I think maybe she paid a small fine.
No, she got approval. She reserved the park for certain times.
We're not talking about that part. Evergreen Park, where she reserved, there's a strip of Evergreen Park that comes all the way up to Bertha.
Right.
That's where she placed her sheds
Yeah.
in a combination. No, they stayed there all summer, Tony. Yes, they did.
Look, we're not gonna argue about it.
I'm not gonna argue about it either.
There were certain sheds that were oversized. Those got moved out. Eventually, they wound up across the street at the ice facility.
In September, they were removed.
And all the sheds were removed.
In September. You're right. In September, they were removed, but she ran the camp all season with them. She did, Tony. What's done is done.
How about this?
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that I'm going to keep an eye on the fence. Okay. Once the fence is in, Tone, I want Brian, our zoning officer, to go out there and make sure that the fence has been properly installed on her property, which I think is a very reasonable thing for all the neighbors to request.
That's fair.
The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call Dina myself, and I'm going to explain to her that she has to, the camp that she is planning on operating, Camp Coconuts out there, has to follow the same rules and regulations that everybody else has to follow when it comes to participating. And if you don't, then we're going to shut you down. And that's really all we can do about it today. And I think it's fair to say that if she does start to do anything, I'm sure I'm going to hear from you and from your neighbors. Yep. And the minute that happens, call up my office and we will start the process of ensuring that Camp Coconuts is not interfering in any way that is improper with Evergreen or your quality of life on Bertha.
Okay, that's fair.
Or in, on the other side,
Yeah, no,
on Overton.
Yeah, because I know there's going to be a ton of traffic over there, and you may have a hand up already for that one too, but that's fair enough. That's all we were asking for. We're not looking to interfere with her business. We understand she's got a right to run it,
Sure.
but there's also got to be a little courtesy on the other side with following the rules. That's all we ask.
No doubt about it. And I got your emails, and I want to say that for everybody, I read through all your emails, and today I asked that because I saw that some of you were saying that there was no permits, and I had all the permits pulled myself to ensure that the permits were there. I had them and left them upstairs. Sorry about that. But please believe me, if one thing goes out of place, call at my office and I'll take care of it myself.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you got it. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kathy Bopicchio, and I'm the president of the Harmony Glen Homeowners Association. In conjunction with what John had to say, we have been fighting with the township for 5 years now to get Overton Road to have no parking. There is an ordinance in place from November of 2019.
I remember.
And yeah, and we've been told there will be no parking. I sat in a meeting with Mr. Mercantante face to face in July of 2021, where he said to me, do not worry, this will be taken care of in 2 to 3 months. We're 2 years down the road. What's going on here?
So the town needs a final as I've.
They're supposed to be putting up a no parking on the entire road because the road is not wide enough.
So
The township bought that strip of land from Walter Spradley in 2011. And we have the Bertha Trust
just
showing that exchange. And they're supposed to have, the ordinance said there'd be no parking from Harmony Road completely down past the gym to the dead end, where they're now going to put a pool.
correct.
Well,
Yeah.
that's-
So
And it's, I don't care that she's putting a pool there, as long as she puts a
There
fence
was-
around it.
There was always, the parking prohibition is the parallel parking up to the driveway into Harmony Glen. The head-in parking that is by the gym has always been there.
And that's fine, because but that's what the ordinance says.
No, it just goes to about to the entrance of Harmony
Greg, do you
Glen,
have
maybe a
the
little.
ordinance? Greg has the ordinance. So we on,
Can I
in,
just say one thing? Just because Greg and I were talking about this the other day at, well, a couple
ShopRite.
weeks ago at ShopRite. Where you host your office hours at ShopRite. But the township is finalizing an easement that is required in order for us to do it. Yes, it is absolutely insane how long to get this easement done. Mr. Nelson can agree to that. But in order for this ordinance to take effect, unfortunately, I need that easement on, it's actually a parcel of like the bank property, kind of that corner right there. Until I sign that ordinance, I can't put into effect the no parking portion.
so in the meantime, our community comes out onto Overton and Hart Drive comes out. Cars are parked on both sides.
Yeah.
People from the gym and the school, there's a school there with children.
Yeah.
And sometimes those kids run out into that street. Most of the time they're with their parents going to the parking lot. But I personally have witnessed kids running into that street. Luckily, no cars were coming. When you're pulling out, you can't see cars coming either way. You have to pull halfway out into Overton to see that.
One thing to be clear though, the vast majority of people who park along there are your residents.
And that's fine. I have provided parking for them.
Right, but they're still parking there though.
That's their choice, but
You can prohibit your residents from parking there. You have a homeowners association, right?
yeah, and I provided them parking. I provided parking for them.
Right, so but almost everybody who parks on that road is a resident of your community. They're the ones who are going to be inconvenienced when there's no longer able to park there.
But I have parking for them.
That's fine, I'm just saying, it's not the Goddard School, it's parking.
I mean, we had even said, even if they, like they do in most towns, there's 20 feet or so from each corner where you can not park because coming out, you can't see. So there's potential for a lot of accidents to happen. There've been some fender benders there.
As soon as that becomes municipal property, as of today, it is not municipal property.
And how many more years are we waiting for?
I don't think you're going to be waiting any more years. I think you're going to be waiting possibly a few more months until we finalize that agreement and get that easement cleared up.
So what's been holding it up all along?
What do you mean?
I mean, the ordinance was passed in 2019. We're in.
You still have to negotiate with the property owner. I mean, I have to negotiate with the property owner in order to get that parcel.
But I thought the township is the property owner because the Bertha Trust gave that land,
No.
$8,000 was exchanged.
No. Township, if that was the case, then you would have no parking signs. But I'm not doing this.
And that was done
I'm not doing an extra.
prior to her owning that land. It was the
You're talking
previous
about two
owner.
different things. There's a little piece of property that was owned by the Bradley Heath family
Mhm.
right near the corner of Harmony Road.
Mhm.
That property transferred to the developer for a public street. But the rest of it that goes up almost all the way to the gym building, that property is still their property until we get this right-of-way deed description done, and then they can dedicate that to the township, and the township then accepts it as a public road. That's what still needs to happen. The part you're talking about, yeah, that did happen a long time ago, but that's only a really small section of that road. It's the rest of it that's still not complete yet, and should be done pretty.
So
I would
does
love
the township, right now, there's a traffic light at the end, and the township plows or Dina plows when there's snow?
They plow.
She provides plowing down there?
It's private property still. Once it becomes a public street, it'll be different, and we'll have to plow it.
The township has come to fix parts of the street when we've had issues.
It may be, I mean, it's gonna be a public street, it's gonna be our responsibility, so they may.
I mean, a lot
there's
of
some
time,
pothole, they'll fix it.
a lot of times, when Greg and I were talking about this a couple, 2 years back, there was grading issues on the street that needed to be fixed because the water was
Right, it was pooling.
at the drain.
Right, and that's been fixed.
That's been fixed because the township demanded that it be fixed, or the performance bond was going to be called on that because it shouldn't be the taxpayer's responsibility because the drain was improperly installed.
Mhm.
So, all these things have to happen in order for the township to then accept a roadway that we feel is acceptable to our professionals. I think in this case being T&M Associates, to say, yes, this drain this street has been properly pitched, properly draining, so on and so forth. And then on top of that, the easement issue that I was referring to.
And then I know the street is scheduled to be completely repaved because she's going to fix her parking lots and restripe and, fine. But who's paying for that? Who's doing the entire street to repave it?
Not us.
Township or Dina?
Well, I think we're doing the paving in exchange for the property. But once we do it, then the street becomes a public street, then her parking lot is hers. But that's the trade-off for the parcel. Yes.
Yeah.
So once the street is paved, then it's yours, it's back to the township?
In exchange, it's basically an exchange of we get that property for the paving.
So I would expect that shortly after it's paved, that no parking would happen?
Yes.
We have, it's like,
Go ahead.
we have what I'll call a tentative agreement in place. We're waiting on engineering descriptions, property descriptions right now to finalize that agreement. Once those are finalized and we have those property descriptions, because we can't take an easement without knowing what we're taking an easement of, then that agreement should be finalized. And then once that's signed and sealed and recorded, then we'll have site control over the property, and then the paving can take place. So it's all going to depend on timing of the year. And, if it's winter, then you're going to have to wait till next spring or whatever. And then, but that's going to be essentially the consideration for getting the property. It's not as simple as it all seems.
Okay, well, it's
So-
taken longer than I would ever imagine for it to take. Government, I guess. Well,
Yeah.
okay, we'll keep an
Yes.
eye on it and you'll keep seeing us until it happens.
No worries.
Thank you so much.
I love seeing Greg at ShopRite.
You might see me there.
All right, come on down. Bread aisle. Any other member of the public wishing to make a public comment? Yeah.
Mark Soporowski, 38 Powell. Thanks for saying you're gonna get Hillside paved. We need that. Last meeting, you guys had brought up about wanting to regulate the vape shops. And it got me thinking about it a little bit. They're already regulated by the state because they have to have a tobacco license to sell that. So maybe that should fall more on the state to enforce that they're following the rules and selling to people that are of age.
It's illegal to step on a dune, yet it's my responsibility to police it.
Well, so it just led me, and I don't really care about the vape thing, but it got my wheels spinning.
Do you sell cigarettes in your?
We do, but we don't sell vapes, and I don't really care about that. But it just got me thinking about all the additional fees that a small business incurs from the federal government, from the state government, and then from municipal government. And then I was thinking about a couple of years ago during COVID, when the bar was shut down from your governor that said, we cannot have anybody sitting at our bar.
Just to be clear, whose governor is that? You said yours. So I just wanna-
All of our governor, fortunate or unfortunate. Middletown came in to me while my bar was closed, code enforcement, and said, you didn't pay your jukebox fee on the wall. And the code enforcement guy at the time said, if you don't pay that fee, I'll have you shut down. And I said, buddy, my bar's closed. I haven't had somebody sitting at my bar for the last 9 months. The last thing I'm thinking about is that jukebox on the wall that's been unplugged since my bar's been closed. At what point do you guys revisit some of these fees? I know I could understand if you had a jukebox fee back in the day when people loaded their own jukeboxes with CDs and records and things like that, which is when this looks like this was put in place. It's a computer now
Well,
that hangs on the wall.
to be fair, Mark, you also remember calling me up and asking me to extend the hours of alcohol sales.
Sure,
from
and I
Memorial-
appreciate that.
From Memorial Day to Labor Day,
Mhm.
and in 2 meetings, we got it done, which I'm sure incurred more business going to your shop.
Sure.
Right? So Tony and I have talked about removing the jukebox fee because I'm not really confident I could identify a jukebox if I saw it.
Yeah, it's a computer.
Yeah.
It used to be it was a piece of furniture before. Now it's a little.
No, but
So I'm just like thinking about the nickel and dime stuff that I go through as a business owner, like where could we cut back on something like that?
The state is set up, almost all sorts of rules and regulations is that a lot of them are established by the states, but they're left to the local governments to enforce because they don't do it. So where there's a potential for an issue, whether it's a quality of life issue or a public health issue, towns have the ability to step in and require licenses like we're talking about doing for vape and smoke shop and things like that, so that we have some control. We had just in the past week or two of them caught selling to minors, 2 out of the 5 we have in town, and a couple in other towns got caught too. And so, there's a valid reason to want to license those establishments and make sure they're following the rules.
Yeah, and I don't really care about that. So I'm just saying how I got to the jukebox thing is I was thinking of, where are these?
None of us.
And
none
the
of us-
second, go ahead.
None of us up here want to institute new fees for anything, because I always think that that's a scheme to just, it's not raising taxes, but it's generating money in other ways. But at the same time, when it comes to, there's also a notion and legislators out there that want to take all existing smoke shops and allow them to become marijuana dispensaries without municipal approval. Is that going to go anywhere? I have no idea. But it's not right for us to just allow them to pop up wherever we want.
Yeah, I don't really care about that. My question is,
I care.
How do you go about, that was just leading me to where I got, how do you go about reassessing some of these fees that you're charging businesses?
Well,
Mayor, 1 second. Can you just tell me what the jukebox fee is?
$50.
$50 per year, right?
Per year.
Okay.
But what is it covering? Nobody's coming in to check it, to see that it's, not overcharging people. There's nothing to check on it. It's a computer. It's a dollar for dollar thing. How do we revisit that fee and see is it something that we need to?
You revisited when we allow alcohol sales or not.
Right here.
Right here.
Good. Second one, which we talked about last year, is the signs, the temporary signs. The ordinance clearly says no temporary signs. And you right up and down 35, 36 Linecroft, temporary signs everywhere.
You can apply for temporary signs.
Oh, well, these signs have been out there for years. The temporary sign law says they can be out there for 2 weeks.
I thought it was 30 days. but-
We have an ordinance that says, I think it's 6 times a year, you can have a special event that can last for a maximum of 2 weeks.
I think it's safe to say most of these signs out there are not special event
They're
signs.
we're constantly after the signs.
And I don't care about them being out there. I just think there should be some continuity with it. Either you can't have the signs and it's enforced, or in the case of me, a seasonal business, it would be nice to, for 3 months to be able to put a sign out there for people
Well,
coming from down,
Mark,
from
listen,
up
liquor-
north.
Liquor stores aren't seasonal businesses.
For
But,
where I am, it's definitely a seasonal business.
okay, but alcohol is sold all year round. It's not like it's a beach place, you know? But my point being is simply this. You're asking for different fees to be waived, and I understand that. Part of the idea behind it was during COVID, exactly what you're advocating for is exactly what we tried to do, and that was be slightly more lenient when it came to signs for businesses that were shut down because their names weren't Target, Walmart, and every other big box that was allowed to be open, but little stores not being allowed open. And I think that you're right. We're now beyond that point. We can start going back and being a little bit tougher when it comes to the signage. I don't disagree with you. But during the pandemic, when you were allowed to be open and Target was allowed to be open and Walmart was allowed to be open, there were other businesses that weren't allowed to be open. And those businesses are still trying to recover and recoup the funds that they lost during that time. So yes, there was leniency towards businesses that had to be shut down during the pandemic or were suffering because of the pandemic. We're beyond that, so we can get back on that horse.
Or maybe look at updating it to allow for a period of time for businesses to
Send me your
do
thoughts.
temporary.
I always want to know what a small business.
Just want to have an open conversation about it to figure out a way that it could be, because I don't think I think a business should be able to advertise for
But
themselves.
that's come up before, though. And the issue is everybody in your shopping center, they want to do it all at the same time for the same 3 months. And what does that look like? You know what I mean? That's the problem.
Okay, but then you go down to the Port Monmouth Food Town and there's, 12, 14 different businesses in there. And there's a sign for every business, including a vape store, right there, right as you go through Wilson Avenue or whatever road that is.
And they code enforcement have them take the signs down. They show up on weekends and then they take them down on Sunday evening. So they're not there on Monday when code enforcement is in. So we started having code enforcement do a couple weekends a month to catch those people. So they'll get them.
I mean, I'm not looking for anybody to get fined for it. That's not the goal. I
It's
just
only
wanna-
being recorded, so, wave hello to all the small businesses that you just told shouldn't have their signs up anymore.
I think they should. I think that the ordinance should be amended to allow
I
for
got
it
it.
without a song and dance.
Send me the proposal. I'll take a look at it.
Thanks.
All right.
Have a good
Any
night.
other member of the public? Yes, sir. I'm going to go behind you, Bruce. Yeah. How you doing today?
What's going on, you guys doing?
Good,
I don't know
thanks.
if I'm too tall for this. Sam Jenkins, 9 Bertha Road, back to, we're talking about the fencing and all that.
Yeah.
That's directly in front of my house. Like I can see right from my house, which is fine. I agree with John. It's a bit, she owns a property, she can do, what have you, but I'm just concerned if they're gonna start dropping these kids off, is this gonna be completely fenced in with no entrance from our side? Because that's my house. Like, if you're gonna be dropping off hundreds of kids,
Well, not on Bertha. They'll only be able to drop them off on Overton.
so that's gonna be completely fenced off, because there's trails now. So if I,
Yeah.
as a parent, dropping my kids off and traffic's backed up because they're saying everyone's parked,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go into Bertha Road and let my kids out and run through the woods.
Yeah, I believe what she had said was that they might put a gate in for people from near to walk through, they could, but it's, the kids are, all the. drop-offs happen in
But
Overton.
if you're gonna put a gate there, that's where they're gonna drop their kids.
But
off.
I
They're
don't
not gonna
think,
sit at the
I
light.
don't think that parents are dropping their kids off. I think these are
Most of the kids are bused.
bus.
But a few years ago, they were getting dropped off and walked down to that swim club. They're not gonna get bused there in the morning. That's a summer camp.
Yeah, no. The intent was that they were being picked up in other.
Well, I know it's at the Hazlitt Swim Club to start, and then they're gonna come there, but next year, if she builds a pool or whatever, this is gonna be our neighborhood. They're gonna be dropping kids off there because
She
the other
said that they
street.
would all be bused.
Yeah, there was no parental drop off.
Okay, is that something that could be done if it does happen? I could bring to your attention that
Sure.
there's cars parked in my street and in my way.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't want kids to get hurt. My kid's right there.
Drop off on your street.
Yeah.
Okay, that fence is gonna be closed in. And then as of right now, you can see where there's a fence that stops. And then there's about 25 feet of woods. Is that part of a variance?
There's no
Like,
variance.
or whatever you call that.
It's just going along their property line.
But she took down woods to a certain part and stopped. And now there's a fence and another fence. You know, is that never gonna come down, or is that something that could happen next year?
I mean, the
Like-
additional woods, she left like a buffer area. kind of-
Yeah, and the fence is right on the sidewalk, and I get it, it's fine, it's blocking everything, it's fine. But like, could that end up being all taken down eventually?
She'd have to apply to do that and get permission to do it, but she hasn't.
Okay. And that's really it, I mean, I just don't
If
understand
that,
too.
if that happens, just, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like I was mentioning, you know,
Mhm.
call at my
Yeah.
office.
And then back to just one more thing with the park down there. I know they go down there and they can rent it or whatever, but now this is gonna be a couple months a year. I can't bring my kids down there. You know, at the end of the street.
They're not, they haven't applied to use the park for anything at this point. It's all going on their site.
Okay. Those are just my questions for that.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Let me just make sure, because I know you already spoke, sir. I'm sorry, did you just spoke on the ordinance? Come on forward. There's some disagreement as to whether or not you should be speaking, I think, back there.
Well,
Just
you
your
said
name and
5
address for the
you
record.
said 5 minutes. I spoke for 2 minutes, so I got 3.
On ordinances, there is no limit.
Okay, fair enough.
Name and address.
Will Nunez, 67 Cypress Neck Road. However, I'm a new resident of Lincroft. Been there for 2 years. Luckily, that group there, my neighbors from Bertha
Okay.
and the Harmony community. So that was lived there for 17 years. And just want to bear witness that these individuals are suffering from what is going on in Camp Coconut. Because one of the reasons I moved was because of Camp Coconuts. The notion that parents don't drop off and pick up on that street on Bertha, that's false, because I experienced it. I would throw myself in front of cars to slow them down, running up and down Voorhees Parkway. So it is false. Parents are going in, picking up at the park, picking up in front or behind the gym. It is just what's driving my former neighbors crazy. It is.
We'll discuss that with the property
No
owner.
one's ever said that, and we wouldn't let them drop off on Bertha. There's no way.
It's happening.
We'll make sure that they're aware that that can't happen.
Okay, again, the fencing, if it faces the other way, absolutely. But parents are being told to pick up their kids after camp down in the park. So my dear neighbor, David here, has to suffer at the cul-de-sac when each one of those parents is zooming in, picking up and taking off. So it's something that is happening. I saw it for 3 years and I finally had enough of it. So.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Any other member of the, Bruce, come on down. Bruce. What do you got going?
Bruce Stafford, 39 Brainerd.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
For starters, I just want to mention I'm also a township resident and I've run into Tony and ShopRite as well. And with all due respect, the last time I ran into him, he asked me if there was any issues, anything I needed to talk to him about, and I said I would wait till the meeting.
That's right, you did. And I said, what? No, just tell me now.
He did. He wanted me to hold him up there, but the last time I did that, his wife left him with me. And she went shopping.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
What do you
But Ted, you could probably answer this for me. Dan from Department of Environmental Protection, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that the slide gates at the marina get closed when the tide is 5.8, 5.9.
You're quizzing me now. I forget the actual number of the elevation, but I'll find out for you. what
If you
it
could
is.
find out, the reason I'm asking that question is because, and you probably know now,
Yeah.
did you get an alarm on the app on your phone Saturday night?
I didn't. No, I don't think I did, actually.
We took on some serious flood water.
Uh-huh.
Brainerd was underwater, Monmouth was underwater, to include Wilson. And guess what? The valve on Wilson failed us again.
Hmm.
I was over there till 11:30 Saturday night. The valve never closed.
Really?
Now, the reason I'm bringing that to your attention now is the high tide coming in tonight is supposed to be at 6:1,
Mm-hmm.
okay? The slide gates, I just checked before I came to the meeting, they're both open, which is okay.
Yeah.
Because Sunday, all day Sunday and Monday, the 3 tides that we had, the valve is functioning on Wilson. We didn't get flooded.
I'll have to check how that corresponds with their closing opening of the bigger gate.
Well,
Seems kind of,
I had thought, that's why I wanted to see if something changed, that at 5.8 or 5.9, regardless of rain or no rain, slide gates get closed. Okay? Spring mode, I believe they're calling it.
right.
Okay? Since they left the slide gates open, we had full moon Saturday night. The high tide Saturday night was at 6.0. If the valve on Wilson was working properly, we wouldn't have got flooded. Now, do
You
we
said it worked
current?
on Sunday, though.
No, Saturday night. Saturday night, the high tide for us was 8:35. I was over at the valve till 11:30. Saturday night, that valve never moved. It stayed open. Stayed open. Sunday morning, I went over there, which the high tide was 9:05. Guess what? The valve was functioning. At high tide, the valve closed. Sunday night, valve closed. This morning, the valve closed. That valve malfunctioned.
I'm not sure why. I don't know.
I can't answer why either. If I could answer why, I wouldn't be here.
But I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna give you my phone number so you can call me again if that happens.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the last couple of times I made appearances down at the police station, based on the meeting that we had with Tony and Tony, when you had said that you were gonna make sure they got an updated roster with emergency contacts, if there's ever an emergency. The last couple of times I went down there, they couldn't find the roster. They said, we think it's somewhere. You gotta remember now, the police department moved from one location to a new location. That thing could have got misplaced or it could have hit the shredder by now.
Bruce, we can make sure that happens.
Yeah.
And Tony, I'm gonna ask.
No, I would appreciate that, because I don't want to I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna
No, but
hold them accountable.
It makes complete sense that in the event that the
Yeah.
slide gates, because I did see that for the gates were open. Somebody had sent it to me on social media, had sent it to me the next morning. So, but it is a good precedent to set, and that is some type of fallback in the event that the gate doesn't open. The police have the right contact information if somebody were to call the desk to close the gates.
Yeah, because years back when I had an issue, they did contact Ted at his phone at his desk on Canes Lane on a Saturday. Didn't help us. Didn't help us. You remember
It's
that?
like they come out that night.
Sometimes I'm there at that time. It's a good chance.
All right. Do we have currently a maintenance contract on that valve on Wilson?
Not a contract, but we have a contractor that we use for that all the time.
Does he have a contract though with you?
There's no contract. There's not a maintenance contract, but we do use the same contractor. If we have a need, we just call them up.
All right. Now, here's the problem, and I brought this to your attention at the last meeting. We have 2 tides per day. If we had that problem like we did Saturday night, when the tide was at 8:35, okay? And let's say you get contacted, okay? I don't want to be the guy to call you at midnight because at 11:30, I was still over at the valve, okay?
You can call me at midnight. That's fine.
But the next high tide is 9:05 Sunday morning. Are we going to get that contractor to that valve between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. to make sure it's functioning by 9:05 high tide?
Well,
We can
possibly.
there's always emergency work that can be authorized that doesn't need the TC to do it. We can do emergency work. So that's
Okay.
not out of the realm of possibilities.
Because that's a major problem because let's say I'm the guy that determines, okay, we're having a problem with the valve. And let's say it's 6 hours into the tide change. We only have 6 hours now left to get it
Yeah,
fixed before
no,
the
no.
next high tide.
No, you're right.
And to, Committeeman Clark just made me aware that actually our computer systems that our first responders use called Spillman can actually have built-in emergency contact information programmed inside of it so that if the police, the fire, they all use it, we can have that pre-programmed in there. So Ted, perhaps we work with the chief, Chief Weber, to get that in there so that in the event that the valve is not functioning for whatever reason, that if an officer gets that call at sitting at the desk, they can see what to do in the event of that scenario.
So it'll be like a directory in their system?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. When I said that, though, you know what I mean.
What else you got, Bruce? You got anything else?
The Marsh Master for Pew's Creek. Do we have anything on schedule for that yet?
We have a few locations, not, which location you talking about exactly, Goose Creek?
The one where you and I stood up on top of the platform at the valve at Wilson and looked out. And all the crow weeds are now like this.
Yeah,
And
no, we
there's
don't have a setup
berms
yet.
out there. There's berms of dirt that's probably 3.5 foot high that are blocking the flow.
Right.
Remember I showed you?
Yep, I
Well,
do.
the county has that, right, Ted?
They
The
do.
county has it.
So I'll call up Commissioner Arnone tomorrow
Okay.
and ask him if we can add it quickly to, if we're okay with that.
Yep.
Add it quickly to the work to get that taken care of.
They did do it years ago. You remember, Ted, quite a
Right.
while back. And I'm telling you, they cut a clear path through there. It was beautiful.
I'll
for
call him
quite a
up
few
tomorrow.
years.
It's no problem.
Appreciate it.
And get a status update on Hillside and first half.
Beautiful. The only other thing I have, Tony, and we discussed this at the last meeting,
Yes.
Zone B, where I am over there, brush pickup was between the 1st and the 14th of May.
Uh-huh.
People are still putting brush out in the street and some of the piles are huge. And for some of those houses over there, they live on, let's say, we won't mention any names, they live on Monmouth and the backside of their property is on Brainerd. Guess
Right.
where all the brush goes?
I got it.
You got it?
Well,
There's huge piles. I mean, some of these piles they're gonna need some serious equipment over there.
Well, we'll start having letters delivered to those houses to make sure that gets cleaned up.
Well, that was another question I had. Are the letters just general mail letters going out or?
No, they're
certified?
placed in, they're, what do you mean?
Are they
General mail.
Well, like, somebody sends a letter to, because that's another issue too. I don't know who goes out there to determine where the brush piles come from, because a lot of people don't put it in front of their house. They'll put it across the street, they put it near a
I
storm
put it in
drain.
Hybel's house.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, our team, as someone who has once received that letter, I'm confident, given the fact that it's on the side of my house and not on the front of my house, they know where to place it.
That's the point I'm trying to
But I
make.
pay for it to be taken away. I just want to be clear.
Well, we've discussed that as well, because on those cards that go out, they used to say that, hey.
Not from the town. I have a private hauler that does that. I just want to be clear for everybody listening. to know.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
completely private hauler.
Well, it used to identify on
Good
there
guy.
that there was a $1,200 charge for late pickups, correct?
And that's on the letter, the letter that the mayor got from me about the
Yeah.
brush.
They don't annotate that on there anymore, though.
He did what every resident does. He called me up and told me that wasn't his, it was somebody else's. And it really wasn't his, and he got somebody taking care of it.
But seriously though, Tony, you know what the big issue is? Ted and I discussed this briefly. They give you a window, like for me, Zone B, the 1st to the 14th. People don't get it that when the truck goes through on May 2nd, it's not coming back.
Yeah.
They think they have that window of opportunity to put their brush out there between the 1st and the 14th, and the guys are gonna come back. The only time in my area that the trucks have ever come back was for leaf pickup. Because normally we'd be
After
in,
a storm or something.
well, because normally they pick up in November for the first leaf pickup, and then they used to pick up a second time around.
I know.
Christmas.
Reading for some is questionable.
The bottom line is we try really hard not to fine people. We try to, work
Yeah.
with them as much as possible. But now that we have Bruce's public authorization.
Yes.
We can start finding people more.
That's okay. I'll mention your name.
Full throttle, full throttle. All right, thanks.
Have you signed the letter?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any member of the public wishing to make a public comment? Seeing no other member of the public stepping forward, move to close the public portion and adjourn.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you all very much.